Hello and welcome to my video essay about the game Heavy Rain and its hard-boiled elements. So first of all, I need to give you a spoiler warning. This video will deal with minor spoilers but also major spoilers that are pivotal to the game and its analysis. So just so you know, there will be spoilers ahead. Heavy Rain is a 2010 interactive drama action-adventure video game developed by Quantic Dream and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. The game features 4 protagonists involved with the mystery of the Origami Killer, a serial murderer who uses extended periods of rainfall to drown his victims. Before I delve into the game, I want to talk quickly about Quantic Dream. Because maybe some of you have heard of some of the games. Quantic Dreams is a French video game developer and publisher based in Paris and was founded in 1997. And Quantic Dream has developed 5 video games to date. The first one, The Nomad Soul in 1990, Fahrenheit in 2005, then Heavy Rain in 2010, then Beyond Two Souls in 2013, and Detroit Become Human in 2018. And the company is known for promoting interactive storytelling with founder David Cage as the primary creative force. So, as I've already mentioned, there are 4 protagonists in the game. The first one you encounter is Ethan Mars. He is a father who lost his eldest son Jason in an accident 2 years before the actual story takes place and was in a coma following the incident. Throughout the game, he is trying to save his other son Sean, who got taken by the Origami Killer. The next character we meet is Scott Shelby, who is a private eye and former policeman. I will let him explain why he is trying to hunt down the Origami Killer. Here he is talking to Lauren Winter, the mother of one of the Origami Killer victims.
My name is Scott Shelby. I'm a private detective. The families of the victims of the Origami Killer asked me to investigate the murders. I came here just to ask you some questions about Johnny.
I already told the police all I know and have nothing to add. Leave me alone.
The killer is walking around free as we speak. He'll kill again if he's not arrested.
My Johnny's dead, so what difference does it make?
Norman Jayden. He is the third protagonist that we meet. He's an FBI agent who is trying to help local police to find the Origami Killer. He has glasses and a glove with ARI on them, which is some sort of program that helps him find clues and analyzes them, which you will also see in this clip. However, due to using ARI, he also takes some sort of drug and often experiences withdrawal symptoms. And he also starts working with local police Lieutenant Blake to track down the Origami Killer.
Video memo recording, Agent 47023, Norman Jayden, Tuesday, October 4th, 2011. Time is 8:14 a.m. Unrelated to the investigation.
The last playable character that we meet is Venison Page, who is an investigative journalist who tries to find out more about the origami killer after Ethan Mars told her about him. She also suffers from insomnia, which the player finds out the first time we meet her because she has just woken up.
Goddamn insomnia. I'm told.
So, now that you have seen how the game kind of works, and I have introduced you to the playable characters, I would like to talk about the game mechanics. So, one thing I have to mention is again, the game is more or less an interactive movie, which means that some scenes you can't really change the camera angles, and in some scenes there are different camera angles added to get the feeling of watching a movie, which you might have seen in some of the scenes that I showed you already, or in the scenes that are to come. So another thing that's really important is that in this game your choices influence how the story ends. And another thing that's interesting is that the game is actually divided into chapters, like on a DVD, as you can see here in this clip that I've put on. And in most of them you are only playing as one of the 4 protagonists. However, sometimes 2 or even 3 characters will be playable in the same chapter. And here I have a clip of what happens in chapter 9, which also emphasizes what I meant with the camera angles. So yeah.
Is everything all right, sir?
No one must see.
This is Lieutenant Blake, Mr. Mars. Could you please tell him what happened?
It was this afternoon. I went to the park with my son, Sean. We played together for a while, and then he wanted to go on the carousel, so I put him on one of the wooden horses, and when I turned back, Sean had disappeared.
Exactly what time did you arrive at the park? Try to remember exactly, Mr. Mars. Every detail can be important.
It must have been about 5:30, I think. I'm not really sure.
What was your son wearing when he disappeared?
He was wearing a coat. A black coat.
So you have just seen how this movie, how this game functions as a movie, and how camera angles are used to give the game a bit more like a sequence and a interactive movie style. And you've also seen Norman Jayden experiencing withdrawal symptoms and Ethan Mars being questioned by the police after he reports his son as missing. Now you there's another game mechanic I just want to point out, which is the quick time event, which you have see here throughout the clip, which is when the sign starts to fill up in like with little stripes, which you can see when she pushes the ladder, or have seen, I'm not quite sure. And what's also interesting is because you see here that Madison Page is trying to fight off intruders that broke into her home, and they are trying to kill her. And what's important to know is that in this game your protagonists can die, and it doesn't mean game over. It just means that some chapters that you could play aren't available to you because the character is unfortunately dead. The last thing I just want to quickly add to the game mechanics is that if you press, at least on the PC, if you press or hold down the right button of your mouse, you have access to the thoughts of your characters, and you can choose which thought you would like to hear. That means you have a bit more insight on what your character is thinking right now in that moment, which is a pretty cool feature, and also helps a lot with immersion into the game. The plot is actually also pretty straightforward, and I also mentioned it in the beginning, because technically just all the main characters want to find the origami killer. The only thing I have to add, so that it makes more sense, is that Ethan Mars doesn't do that. He doesn't want to find the killer, he just wants to save Sean, and he actually gets a letter in the mail that leads him to a locker in a train station, where he finds a box that includes origami figurines that give him 5 trials, and if he completes these 5 trials, he gets the address where Sean is held, and that is something the origami killer gives him as a way to prove how far he's willing to go to save someone he loves. So, now that you know a bit about the playable characters and the storyline, let's get into the hardboiled elements of the game. So I need to be honest, it is not entirely made clear where the game takes place. Some details seem to point toward Philadelphia, but the only thing that can be said for certain is that it is set in a city in America, which fits hardboiled fiction. Because, as you know, hardboiled fiction is often defined by what it is not. It's not British, it's American. It's not set in a little village, but in a large city / urban area, which fits the game. Motif: the rain. It rains a lot in the game, which does not only function to make the world look more grim and to be seen as a bad omen. In the beginning of almost every chapter, in the left corner of the screen, the player gets to know how much it already rained, which at first doesn't seem to be that important. It is just rain, right? However, over the course of the game, you learn how the victim gets killed, how the victims of the origami killer get killed. Here's Norman Jayden explaining it for you.
One detail attracted my attention. The interval between the time when a victim disappears and the time when the body is found ranges from 3 to 5 days. But the rainfall is always at 6 inches, give or take 10%.
What on earth does that mean?
All the victims were drowned in rainwater. The killer kills only in the fall when there is plenty of rain. It could be that he puts them in some sort of well or tank that is open to the skies and that fills up with rainwater. The more it rains, the less time the victim has to live.
So after realizing how the origami killer kills his victims, the little pop-up on the side of the screen has a new meaning and gives the player almost a new sense of urgency to find the killer. There are a few red herrings throughout the game. The first one is Ethan Mars. Ethan has blackouts sometimes, which probably result from him being in a coma. And that the problem is when he blacks out, he wakes up and somewhere else, he doesn't know where he is, and he cannot remember what he did while he was blacked out. And he woke up one time when he blacked out with an origami figurine in his hand, which is the thing that, well, sets the origami killer from other killers apart. And that doesn't make Ethan the most reliable narrator or character in the game. So you don't really trust him that much. And the problem is that even Ethan himself sometimes thinks that he could have done it. Here, for example, where he ponders if he put a box of evidence into a locker just so that he could get it out again to face some trials he has to do to save his son. Another it's still the same red herring, but another thing that happens that makes Ethan look even more suspicious than he already does is that his ex-wife actually goes to the cops and tells the story how Ethan came home early in the morning drenched and with like this weird look in his eye, and she doesn't really hope that or think that there's a connection, but the next day there was a new victim, and the cops of course take that into account and now have a new lead. Another red herring would be what I call the Kramer family, but in particular Gordy Kramer. Because when Scott Shelby and Lauren Winters follow a lead, this is what Gordy Kramer has to say.
Very well. I'm the origami killer. I get my victims into my car. I drown them in rainwater. Then I dump them on a wasteland with an origami figure in one hand and an orchid on their chest. I do that because I'm bored, Mr. Shelby.
So not only does Gordy Kramer confess to being the origami killer, and there's also his father, Charles Kramer, that seems a bit suspicious and acts a bit weird, which could lead the player to believe that he could also be involved with the killings. The most hardboiled character in the game. I believe that if I would just put the pictures of the four main protagonists in front of you without you having ever seen a clip of the game or even read what it's about, I would believe that all of you would pick the same character to be the most hardboiled character just because of the way he looks. That of course is Scott Shelby. And that makes sense because he is without a doubt the most hardboiled character out of the four main protagonists. For starters, he is a private eye, and he is also the most prone to violence. He is a loner because while Shelby technically gets a partner in Lauren Winter, he doesn't get partnered up like willingly. He rather just partners up so he can get something that he wants, which is the letter from the origami killer.
Are we partners?
We're partners.
He is also the only playable character that can bribe someone, which he does so if the player chooses so, and it helps him in many cases to get the answers or the clues that he needs. And he also seems to be streetwise, which again is a check mark on the hardboiled traits list. However, most of the time, the hardboiled character or the most hardboiled character is also the hero of the story, finding the necessary clues to put the puzzle fully together and finding the killer in question, right? Well, it turns out that Scott Shelby is actually the origami killer, and consequently the main antagonist of the story. And this is of course a clever twist regarding the hardboiled fiction genre, as he is also, as I mentioned, the most hardboiled character in the game. And that makes Scott Shelby also the biggest red herring in the game. Remember how in the beginning I showed you a clip of him telling Lauren Winter that he got hired by the families of the origami killer victims to investigate and find the killer? Well, that of course was a lie. Shelby just needed to collect the evidence he had left behind when he gave the trials to the victims' fathers, and this could potentially lead the police to him. It is also why he reluctantly agreed to be partners with Lauren Winters to get the letter and destroy it. However, I believe the most, and it's not a word, but like the most red herringy thing that the game does to let the player believe that Scott Shelby is actually trying to find the killer are Scott Shelby's thoughts. Remember how I told you that you can listen to your player's thoughts if you click on the right mouse button? Well, when you are listening to his thoughts, you realize that he always thinks of the killer as another individual, which I believe is a great misdirection. I mean, it would also ruin the mystery if he would think of the killer as himself, because then the player would know so. The last thing I want to talk about in regards to Scott Shelby is, as I mentioned before, he's the most hardboiled character, and I told you that he's the most, prone to violence. Out of the four main protagonists, he's the most prone to violence, and I couldn't tell you that before because I didn't want to ruin who the killer is before I revealed it, but it makes sense that he's the most prone to violence now, especially knowing that he is the killer. And I want to show you a scene that really tells you how prone he is to violence, which happens after Charles Kramer tries to kill him and drown him in his car. This is what happens.
Where are you, you old bastard? Your office?
Stay back! Don't come near me, or I'll shoot!
Fucking asshole.
Please. Oh!
Your idiot son killed all those kids, didn't he? He's the origami killer.
No! No! He's innocent! He's not a killer! Not a killer!
You're a fucking liar. Now tell me the truth.
No! No, please! Don't hurt me!
Last chance.
I don't know. I swear. I don't know anything. Oh. Oh. Stop. Stop. I beg you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Gordy always wanted his fun, you know.
So, as you could clearly see from this clip, he is definitely the most violent person out of the four main protagonists, and which would also line up with like being the most hardboiled character, because they are also often the tough guy, but he's also the main antagonist and is a killer. So there's this dichotomy between the two, and I just wanted to show you the scene because I found it really interesting, and it reminded me of the "well, that escalated quickly" meme. So I just wanted you to see it, because I am aware that not many of you will probably want to play the game on their own. But I have to say, if you do feel like this video piqued your interest and you would still like to play the game, I would highly recommend it. It's really cool to play. And even though you know who the bad guy is now, I don't think it will like damper your playthrough that much, because I'm on my third playthrough right now, because there are multiple endings. So it's really interesting to play the game, and I hope some of you would like to play it also, because I just think you would like it if you like video games at least. And this would conclude my video essay on Heavy Rain and its hardboiled elements. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it wasn't too illogical and not too complicated, because I'm never quite sure if I explained something right. I hope you could follow me, and I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.